What we need to understand is the architecture of how it works. So the user connects to the report manager gets the metadata for a report from the database server, goes back to the web server then gets the data, and then once it retrieves the data from the data source, then it renders the report back to the user. The last question here, a really important question, is where should I report from? We need to build these reports. We need to build these reports that we're going to store out there in our report manager for our end users to look at, but where should we report from? And the first thing we have here is we have the option to report from the transactional database. Now, the transactional database is not designed for reporting purposes. The transactional database is designed to support the business processes, right? It's designed to support the everyday transactions of the business. So all of the inserts, the updates, the deletes, all of those individual transactions that take place, that's what the transactional database is designed for. Now, there are a lot of users and a lot of companies that are using the transactional database for reporting. And for the most part, maybe in your environment, that's working out okay. But I would caution you against that because there could be a lot of cons, a lot of negative effects that you would get from reporting from the transactional database. For example, the transactional system is not optimized for reports. It's optimized for business operations, as we've previously mentioned. Typically, the queries are going to be significantly more complicated because the database is built in a normalized form, right? So you might have to do a join between many tables in order to get that to work. And then really the biggest thing that you're going to come across here is that all of your queries that you're running against the operational system could cause performance issues on that transactional database, right? So now, because I'm running all these reports, these large reports that we've built with all these joins and all these different conditions, it's now slowing down the operation of the business, those inserts, those updates, and those deletes. So just keep that in mind. Reporting off the transactional database is not going to be optimal. Now, one kind of pro of reporting off the transactional database is you can get the most recent information. The most up-to-date information is going to reside in the transactional database. The next thing we have here is the data warehouse. Why should I report from the data warehouse? Well, the reason for that is specifically because the data warehouse is designed specifically for reporting. It's designed in such a way that we're going to have faster reports and they're going to be better for report performance. Data warehouses are also designed to store historical information. So we can now get historical information from our data warehouse about our business and have more robust reporting and have better analytics on our data. The queries themselves are going to be significantly simpler because the database is no longer built in a normalized format. So the joins between tables are going to be much less than what we would have if we were reporting off of that transactional database. And obviously, there's going to be less interference with the operational database as well. The only real con here to reporting off the data warehouse is we have to wait until the data warehouse has been designed and loaded. Typically, you only load a data warehouse once a day. Some companies do load it multiple times throughout the day to have more live data to build their reports off of. But in general, the data warehouse is definitely a good place to report from. The next option that we have here is the ability to report from an analysis services cube. There's a few reasons why we would want to report from analysis services cube. First of all, because the data is going to be pre-aggregated. If our analysis services cube has been designed and developed correctly, we're going to be able to return the report significantly faster than we would from a data warehouse. The data is pre-aggregated. Analysis services already knows the answers to the questions before we even ask them. It's already aggregated that data for us. And then we can leverage some very powerful time intelligence calculations through the MDX query language, the multidimensional expression query language. Now, we won't get into actually discussing MDX here, but just keep in mind that MDX query language has some very powerful time intelligence calculations that we want to leverage. Some of the cons of using analysis services are going to be latency. So we have to wait until the cube has been processed, which could take some time depending on how much data we've decided to aggregate there. Also, analysis services, development of analysis services specifically, has a steep learning curve. You don't just jump into analysis services and develop a cube. And then to report off of the cube, you need to at least have some understanding of MDX. So you need to have some understanding of the multi-dimensional expression language. The last thing I want to review here is Keep in mind that when we talk about latency, as far as when we can report, one of the cons of reporting from the data warehouse is that we first have to take that data from the transactional database and load it into the data warehouse every night. And we do that using an ETL tool called SQL Server Integration Services. So we retrieve the data from the transactional database, we clean that data up, we transform that data, we apply business rules to that data, and then we load that data into our data warehouse. And then once the data has been loaded, then we can build those reports. And then for analysis services, once the data warehouse has been loaded, so we have to wait for the data warehouse to get loaded, then we can run our cube processing, which is going to load and process those dimensions and those measure groups that we've developed in our analysis services cube. And we can't report off of analysis services until after the cube processing is complete. So ideally, in a perfect world, you would build all of your reports off of analysis services cube, which is going to be optimized for reporting purposes. But you have to keep in mind the amount of work it takes to develop the data warehouse, load the data warehouse, develop the analysis services cube, load the analysis services cube, and then build the reports from analysis services using that MDX language, which can take some time to learn as well.